Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I've got to do some extended LCAs for a mate, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to show you some of my DIY LCA kits for you guys. So I have two types. There's an S chassis type and an R chassis type. You'll see that the R chassis type is much longer than an S chassis type. So these, because there's a cast rod here and a sway bar pickup on an S chassis, what we do is we have one that goes down so you can still access the bolts for the cast rod, and then we put the other half on so all three bolts are accessible. But then we have an R chassis which doesn't have the sway bar pin, so we can run a much longer gusset for pretty much all of the arm, and then put the lower piece on to reinforce our extension. So depending on which type of lower control arm you have will depend on which type you buy, but they're both the same price regardless. Chris wants a 35mm extension on his S13 arm, so that's what we'll do. It's pretty easy. So what we've got to do, first things first, we'll get the grinder and we'll cut the lock stops off on both of them, and then we'll measure the outside width of this and find out where it best suits on the S13 and mark a square line to cut, and then we'll prep the end, clean it all up, weld this in, and then come around and weld the gussets on the base. So it's all pretty simple. It's a little bit time consuming, but it can be done with basic tools as well, so you don't need to go buy a lot for this. It just depends on what type of welder you have. I'm going to TIG weld the whole thing, but you can use TIG or MIG, it doesn't really matter. It just depends on what you have available to yourself. Now that we got the lock stop cut off, we're just going to measure the outside of this and find somewhere that's going to be suitable to tie it in. So because it's two different radiuses, it changes a little bit throughout the bend, so we're just going to find somewhere where it's going to suit, and then we can do them same on both. So that's about 30mm off the front hole. And we can square it up. Usually I find that underneath the lock stop's pretty straight for you to square it. And then to get down the sides, usually I just set it flat on the bench. And mark both lines. So we're going to cut on this line and we're going to weld the extension in here. Now that we've got it all cut into pieces, what we want to do is clean up all the dags from the lock stop, and then take all the paint off, and then grind a prep on both edges so we can weld this thing in. So yeah, we'll have to get the dag off this side and then clean it up inside and out on both arms, and then we can tack it all together. Now that we got it all cut and ground up, so I ground the bottom as well to prepare to put the gussets on them. Cleaned all the back up. You can see I put a prep on it on the front, but you can see that it's flush on the top and flush on the side, so you picked a good spot to weld it in, so it should come up pretty seamless. And then what I usually do, so I usually use my magnet. And then set one side up on the extension and then tack it together, and then move the magnet up to set the other side up. And then there's a bit of extra green on the ends here, so you can weld out to the end without hitting the corner away, and then at the end cut it all back and then grind it all. you go. We've got one tack together that we can start welding out. And then we've just got to remember to do our repairs. We've just got to fill these two cuts in and then finish it back, and then it's all done. Now that we welded the gusset in and the extension in, all we've got to do is clean up our little repairs and cut the tabs off, and there you have it. One completed extended LCA. So if you're interested in doing something like this for yourself, I'll put the link in the descriptions to buy either the S chassis or the R chassis DIY extension kit. Thanks for watching, and I'll try and show you another part that we do in another video. Cheers.